This is my first go at this. Let's give it a whirl. This video introduces the Manchus first by explaining their origins, second by outlining their conquests, and third explaining how they governed a universal empire. The Manchus are from what is today northeastern China. That's up here. They were originally a nomadic forest-dwelling people that coalesced as a distinct political and cultural entity in the half-decade preceding the collapse of the Ming Dynasty. One can think about them almost as a purpose-built conquest organization. The process of transforming scattered clans into a formidable united force began in 1599 when the Manchu language was standardized in the form of a common alphabetical script. Here we can see the vowels. One of the most prominent places, if you're looking for it today, that you can see the script surviving is in the Forbidden City and other imperial sites around Beijing. You can see here the Manchu language sitting alongside Chinese. Another step in 1615 was the creation of a banner system of expert bowmen and horsemen. Bannermen were organized in a military command structure of 4, then later 8 groupings. You can see the yellow and blue banners here in the middle. These feared banners demanded absolute loyalty from their members. They controlled all property not just of their members, but also of their families. It was in the next year that the Manchus made their conquest ambitions clear. The chief of the assembled clans, Hong Taiji, declared the formation of the later Jin, claiming to lead the successors of the Jurchens, who had once ruled a swath of northern China as the Jin dynasty. Then, in 1636, Hong set his sights still higher, renaming the dynasty the Qing. This was a clever play on the Chinese system of 5 elements. The Ming, whose dynastic name contained the element of fire, would surely melt the Jin, whose elemental property was metal. But the Qing element of water would inevitably extinguish that of the Ming. The moment of opportunity for the Manchus came in 1643 when a Chinese rebel leader sacked Beijing, leading the last Ming emperor to flee the gates of the Forbidden City and hang himself at a location that is still marked at Jinshan Park. When word of the chaos reached General Wu Songui at the Great Wall, he opened the gates for the Manchus, who swept south to begin their conquest. Beijing then fell to them in 1644, the date that is traditionally viewed as the start of the dynasty. It would take 40 years to fully pacify what had been Ming China, that's this area over here, and a little over a century to secure the full territory of what would become the Qing Empire, adding Mongolia in 1697, Tibet in 1720, and finally Xinjiang in the 1750s. Unsurprisingly, this conquest was not always peaceful. It included major acts of violence, including a 1645 massacre at the commercial center of Yangzhou, in which hundreds of thousands were said to have been killed, and the complete annihilation, a century later, of the Zungar people in the 1750s. The empire that finally emerged was a new kind of universal empire for China. The Qing rulers wore many hats and governed their diverse constituencies, Manchu, Mongol, Tibetan, and Chinese, in ways that were often highly adaptive to local circumstances. The visual imprint of this governing strategy can be seen in the portraits of the Yongzheng and Qianlong emperors. Here we can see the Yongzheng emperor posing alternatively as a Central Asian warrior, a Chinese scholar, and a Mongol Khan. The Qianlong emperor, too, enjoyed creating such portraits. Here we can see him presented as the Chinese son of heaven, so convincing that many Chinese believed that the Manchus had become entirely Sinified, as well as a Tibetan Buddhist saint. If there was an enduring exception to local adaptation to universal empire, it was the mark of physical subjugation the Manchus imposed as the Qiu, or Bianzi. This violated the common Han Chinese taboo of not altering one's hair as a mark of respect for one's family. And yet, this rule was strictly in force, as demonstrated by the expression, "keep your hair and lose your head," or "keep your head and cut your hair."